Okay, guys, thank you for sticking with me so long and going through all the preparations. Now it is time to look for the apartments, the fun part. We can go window shopping a little bit and look at places that you're interested in. And also, yeah, narrow it down. What's really on the market, how realistic your expectations were. And we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty. Before we can go to the homepage, we should look at a few things that might be different in Germany compared to your home country. One of the main things is pricing. In Germany, there are a few different ways to show the pricing of the apartment. The most common one for unfurnished places is Kaltmiete, and that only includes the part of the rent that you have to pay to the landlord for staying at the place. On top of Kaltmiete, there are always side costs. In Germany, that's Nebenkosten, and those side costs can include, for instance, the gardener or the housekeeper. In some cases, it can include water, electricity, and the listing should show that, or also the rental contract will definitely show it. So make sure you know that Kaltmiete is not all you have to pay. Side costs will always come on top of that. Cold rent plus side costs equal warm rent. Warm rent will be shown for furnished places, but that's not all that you have to pay in some cases. There are situations where you have to add extra expenses. For instance, the internet is rarely included. Then sometimes water, electricity, if that's not listed in your rental contract and as part of the side costs, then you will have to pay that on top of what your warm rent is. And then sometimes there's some weird off things. For instance, apartments have a stairway cleaner that do it once a week, and the whole house together chips in 10, 15 euros a month to get the stairway cleaned. So those could be other obligations that you should know about. So just so you know, cold rent is definitely not all that you have to pay. Something will come on top of that. And warm rent might not be all that you have to pay. Only if your contract or the listing says it's all inclusive, including internet and everything, then you know that you don't have to add anything to that. So just make sure you watch for that in your calculations. Another thing that is different in Germany to many other countries, especially the US, where I rented an apartment before, is that Germans count every room that is not a bathroom, a kitchen, or the hallway. So Americans that rent a one-bedroom, Einzimmerwohnung in Germany, are often surprised and complain and say, this is not a one-bedroom, this is a studio. In the US, you only count rooms that have a bathroom connected to them as one full room. That means a one-bedroom in the US would be a sleeping room, a bedroom with the bathroom attached to it, and then a separate living room. But this would be considered a two-room apartment in Germany. And the American studio, so just one room to live and sleep in, a kitchen and a bathroom, would be considered a studio. So just make sure you know that, so you're not surprised. Every room that is not a bathroom or a kitchen counts in Germany. Okay, guys. That's all that I have for this point. Now we can look at the home pages and get started with finding a few apartments. All right, pull up your list of home pages so you see what home pages we recommend that we find work best. There's obviously way more, but I think less is more in this case. Stick with what we recommend and you should get success. It's very unlikely that you won't be able to find something on these homepages. Don't try to go around and look on 20 different homepages and just get confused. In almost any case, you'll be fine with sticking with what we recommend. The best starting place for almost everyone is WG gesucht right here. I will have another video, video number 6, right after this, so I'm not going to show that to you right now, but this is especially a good place for flat share, but also other people. If you're looking for furnished or unfurnished, it doesn't matter. You should start your search on there. On top of that, there are different places, obviously, for different kinds of apartments. For the furnished apartments, it's pretty much self-explanatory, since most of these apartment companies do offer English service. That's why I'm just going to get into one. The biggest one, and that will most likely be sufficient for most people, is Home Company. If you still need to look at a few other places, then there's a list of 4 other companies that are very good. So click on Home Company. It's pretty self-explanatory. You enter your city, then the price range for furnished apartments. You will be somewhere in the price range around 1,200, 1,300, 1,400 realistically. If you're lucky, you can find something cheaper than that. And obviously, if you want something a little more fancy, then you will need that. And select your start date. Remember, you will have a period of at least 90 days for most of these places. And I would recommend you, to be honest, if it's not just your starting base, then to select at least 6 months, because it's just a hustle to register a place, having to deregister it. But obviously you can just stay with 3 months if that's what you prefer. Select your starting date and search. Then all these places will come up. If it switches to German, you can just go on the top right corner and select English. And you have a selection of apartments. Go through them. One thing that I mentioned here, this rent is including Nebenkosten. NK stands for Nebenkosten side costs, what we talked about. With furnished apartments, most of the time this is an all-inclusive price, but once you go through the listing, make sure it's really what it promises to be. You will get a little map and so forth, a little bit information, comfortably furnished studio flat in Kreuzberg. And if you're interested, you click on Apply Now. You can start a fast request. That's what I would do for this case. Enter your last name, first name, and all your private information. In the comments, you can add the template email that we gave you and work with that as a start, or just be very short with furnished apartments. It doesn't really matter that much. So that's the way that you actively search. On top of actively searching, you should contact these companies and file a search request. So an agent of Home Company searches for you. That's free. You can either call them under this number here on top, or you go under private clients and search request. Here you can fill in your requirements, give a short reason, and then send off at the bottom the form. You should always file a search request, because not all apartments are necessarily listed already, and in your active search you might miss something. So I would always recommend you to file a search request, and then an agent might contact you and say we can meet your requirements or we can't, but it's always good to get that little bit of extra help. And that's pretty much it. You're paying more for a furnished apartment than you would for an unfurnished apartment, but you also get a bit of conveniency for it, and that's how you do it. Now, if you're looking for an unfurnished apartment, still, like I said, the first place to start is WG gesucht, more in video number 6. But there's also these 3 homepages. They are very similar, and you should probably stick to one of them because they have such a great variety of different listings, and you will get bombarded with so many different offers that will be hard to keep up. By all means, feel free to go through all three of them, but in my experience, it's best to pick one where you seem to find the most apartments you like and stick with that. So we're going to take a look at Immobilien Scout because it's the one. Like I mentioned, not available in English, only in German, and that's why I'm going to walk you through here. It will have this little search form up here. Mieten is correct, unless you want to buy a place, but then you should probably get some in-person consultation. Stay with Mieten, that's to rent. Select the place where you want to rent. For now, just stick with the city. Don't specify too much. And select Wohnung. You can select different things on here. There is, for instance, house, which means self-standing house. Wohnen auf Zeit, that's just short-term, most of the time furnished. And WG-Zimmer, if you're looking for a flat share. But really, for these other criteria, I would, so if you're looking for a furnished apartment, I would recommend you to go through the list that I said that's in the download. And for flat shares, we'll get to that in a second. For now, just stick with flat share, enter your price range, let's say 700, and this is most of the time only warm rent, not with all other costs that come on top of that. So maybe subtract a little bit from your absolute maximum, then add the amount of rooms. Remember, in Germany, every room that's not a kitchen or a bathroom counts. So an American studio is a 1-bedroom in Germany. Let's look for a 2-room place. The Fläche means the size of the apartment in square meters. So let's maybe go with 60. And this one, that's just the range. If you want to be very specific, you can just narrow it down, but for now I would recommend you to keep it open and look at the 109 apartments that are available. So here you can scroll through the list. For instance, let's look at this one. Here, you obviously make a list, open up in your browser a few ones that you like. You can, by clicking the heart, you can remember them and go through the pictures. Make sure you like what you see. And if this apartment fancies you, you can look at the map where it's actually located. Here you will see the information, so the size in square meters, what floor it's on, and how many rooms it has, 3 rooms, 1 bathroom. And here you will find some additional information. If you don't understand it, just copy paste and put it into Google Translate. And at the bottom of the page and also here on top on the side, if you like this apartment, you star it, and if you're ready to contact the broker, you can enter your message here. For that, I would recommend you to use our email template that we provided for unfurnished apartments, especially if you're dealing with a company. And here you can see who you're dealing with. So this is a professional logo, this is a GmbH, a limited, so this is a professional company that rents out this building. Use the formal letter. The informal is just for flat shares. If it's just one person, most of the time you will be better off with the formal version of the letter that we provided you. If you can, call, that's better. Make sure you remember the listing number here, the Scout ID up here, and then you're good to go. Contact them, tell them a little bit about yourself, ask when the house visit is, and then you contact your first place. Make sure you make a list of these either on paper, or you can just save them in your profile on Immobilien Scout, and then you create a nice little folder of several apartments that you can go over and decide on. And last but not least, if you are looking for a flat share, then there's two options. There is one, again, WG gesucht, and there's Medici Living here on the bottom. The difference between the two is that WG is a little bit cheaper and a little bit more personable. So typically the people that will list the place here are the roommates themselves, and they're looking for someone to come into the apartment. This is great for making friends, learning German, but also you don't really know what you're getting. The pictures might not be updated or as great, and it's a little bit more hassle to find something. Medici is run through a professional company, and it will be a little bit easier to find a place, a little bit more expensive, and you kind of know what you're getting. The pictures are up to date, and it's not that much of a hassle. So if you're willing to pay a little bit extra to not worry about it, then Medici is probably the way to go. Simply click on the link. Once the page opens, you can change the language if you need to into English, and German is the other option. Select the city where you're interested in an apartment and search. Pretty self-explanatory. You have the options that are available. You can click on any of these, see where they are on the map. So this one at the moment is not bookable. Bad example. Let's look at maybe this one. So here you see the monthly payment with a flat share that's typically all inclusive. So you don't need to calculate any extra costs. You could get this room for 520, have a one-time deposit and a one-time application fee. And you see what other rooms are included, the communal rooms, and you can go through the listing. Once you're ready to go, enter your start of rent and click book a room. For the wording, I would recommend you highly to use our email template. So the option B for room shares, less formal, would be good for this one. Fill in the forms, it's pretty, the empty gaps, it's pretty self-explanatory. Important is that you enter 2 or 3 hobbies, because your roommates will want to get to know you. Just show who you are and be personable. Say what you're doing in Germany and ask for the apartment visit. Also, what you can add optionally, if your German is not up to par and you would prefer to continue in English, you can add this little sentence in here that you just moved to Germany and your German at the moment is not that great. If it would be possible to continue in English. Add your phone number and your email, and you're good to go. You can sign up here to create a profile and then contact the apartments you're interested in. Also, here in the top right, there is the option to have Medici contact you directly. So if you prefer that versus going through the homepage, enter your name, email, and your phone number, and then they will contact you and see if there's something available. I would always recommend you to do both. Sometimes apartments are not listed, and it's good to get the free help of the company on top of that. All right, guys, now you're at the point where you know where to look, how to look, get a list of a few good candidates together, and then we'll see you in the next video.